Hello and welcome. I'm Shepard, and if you're watching this, that probably means you're in one of my games. And that means this is a Maptool tutorial for you. This will not be going over how to download Maptools or any of the other files that are required for what we do. This is more of an overview of how to create your token using Maptools. So, let's get into it. After you have downloaded Maptools using the appropriate links found in the Discord, and the campaign file, Civic Props, also located in the Discord, you will want to open Maptools after you have finished downloading it. And when you do, this is what you should see. It should, if you download the appropriate version, show this little box, Update a Variable. We are not going to use 1.11.5, so you'll want to hit No. The version you should have, and we will be using, is 1.10.3. You could find that up here. And if you don't have that version, you need to go into the Discord and click that GitHub link, which will bring you to the appropriate version of Maptools that we will be using. So, if you have the appropriate version, the first thing you'll want to do after you click that little No in that box is come up here to File and hit Open Campaign. And from here, you'll want to find the Civic Props that you downloaded. First, you have to unzip Civic Props. If you don't do that, it will not work correctly. But once you do, it should look something like this. Only yours will not have all of the tokens in the preview. But once you find it and select it, click Open. And the campaign file will open for you. From here, we can start working on your token. If you do not do this step, your token will not have all of the properties it needs to be a fully functional token for our games. So, let me just take this look over here. When you first open Maptools, it should look something like this. You'll want to scroll out, and you'll find the appropriate area that you will want to be working on. So, if you open up the campaign and you see a black screen, do not worry. Simply scroll out using the mouse wheel. Now from here, you can add your token to Maptools. Now your token can be any picture you wish for your character. We will use this little squirrel. Now to get your picture of your token onto the Maptools map, simply click, select it, drag, and drop. And now, your picture is on the map. And now it is a token, as long as you are on the token layer. You should start on the token layer. If you are not, make sure the token layer is selected. It will be in blue if it is. Now from here, we can do several things. To begin with, double-click your token, and that will open up the Edit Token box. I was double-checking to see if it was recording, and it is. Now the first thing you want to do is go from Notes, which is where you will start, to Config. On Config, we have a few things we need to do. You can change the shape of your token from square to top-down, and that allows you to do this. It is not completely necessary, but it helps when RPing. That way people know which way you are looking. You can change the size of your token. Most of you will be medium. Some of you will be small. But this is the most important thing you need to change on the Config tab. you want to go into properties, and you should start off as basic. You'll want to change your token properties to quad props, which is 3 down from basic. If you do not do this, when you go into your properties tab, it will say high, and that is useless. However, if you change it to quad props and then hit the properties tab, you will see all of this information, which we will get into later. You can also change your sight. So if you have dark vision, you can select dark vision and how many feet you have. If you have 30, select 30 feet. If you have 60 feet, select 60, and so on and so on. The same thing goes for Devil Sight and True Sight, if you have it. Also Blind Sight, which you have to scroll up to see. If you do not have any of those visions, leave it as normal. You automatically should be hit Snap to Grid. That means you will move along the grid. If Visible to Players is not selected, select it. Otherwise, when you drop your token onto the map when we begin to play, you will not be able to see your token. And only I will, because I am not the player, I am the DM. You can also add a portrait and handout to your token. That way, when people hover over your token, like this, they will either say this picture, which is the layout, or they will see the portrait, which you can add by also clicking and dragging, like so. Now, when you hover over the token, you will see the full picture, instead of just the outline. Now if we go back into the Edit Token box, you can also do the same thing for handout. You can go to Speeches, and here you can type in the languages you know, or speak. Ownership, I suggest you select all players. That way everyone can control your token if you are not there, or if you need someone else to do it for you. You can also go to State, and here there are various abilities, conditions that your character may have during our campaign. You could easily check them here, or right-click your token, and you can find the states in this box. But at the very bottom, you should see your health bars. They automatically should be hidden. If you would like people to see your health, you can unselect that box, and now, when you hover over your token, it should be visible. This campaign file is set up to where it is not always visible. However, for your game, it will always be visible because I will have that property set up correctly. We can skip VBL because we do not use it. Properties. This is where you will enter the properties for your character based on your statistics that you either rolled, if we were using the road system, or that you set up using the point buy system. For passive perception, you would put what your passive perception is. If you had an 11 for passive perception, you would put 11. You can calculate this by adding 10 plus your wisdom modifier plus proficiency if you are proficient in the perception skill. The same thing goes for passive insight. It is calculated the same way. Movement, you can edit your movement speed here. If you have a 30 feet movement speed, which most characters do, you can leave it as is. If your movement speed varies, such as a dwarf or a tabaxi, you can edit here by either putting in 25 feet or 40 feet for tabaxi. You can also add in your spell slots. Spell slots automatically fit in the properties. To add a spell slot to your character, if you're playing a spellcaster, simply double click and scroll all the way to the front, as it will set you to the end of your spell slots. To add a spell slot, simply delete the 0 and enter in how many spell slots you have. If you have 1, put in a 1. Max is the maximum number of spell slots. So, if you had a total of 3 first level spell slots, put in a 3. This means that you currently have 1 first level spell slot out of 3 maximum spell slots. If you're just now making your character and you have 3 for both, simply type in 3 for both. And the same goes for 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th level, 5th level, and so on. You can also enter powers here, such as rages or channel divinities. You can find a template for powers in Maptools help in our Discord. You can set it up mostly the same way that the spells are set up. Simply change the name. Quad props base is the base for your stats. So, strength base means it is your strength score. If you have a 15 in strength, simply type in 15. And the same goes for the rest of the stats. If you had a 13 in dex, type in 13. This is where you just enter your statistics for your character into your properties. Current HP. That is how much HP you have currently. If you have 20 HP, put in 20. Or whatever amount you should have. And remember, we use averages for our HP. If you have a D10 hit die, that means you have a 6 health, plus your con modifier. Max HP. This is the maximum your HP is. So if you have 20 maximum HP, type in 20. And this means now you have full HP, 20 out of 20. Whenever you are damaged, con HP will tick down. So if you take 1 hit point of damage, now you have 19 out of 20. Proficiency. This is where you put in your proficiency modifier. If you have 2 proficiency, leave it as 2 until you level to the appropriate level where proficiency is increased, which is level 5, at which point it becomes 3. And when that happens, type in a 3, and now your proficiency has increased by 1. Do not worry about initiative mods or an advantage. Those are modifiers and advantage to your initiative, which you shouldn't have. If you put in your dexterity modifier for initiative mods, that will add in your dexterity bonus twice. And unless you have an ability that allows you to do so, that should not happen. Combat. Weapon primary. We do not need to worry about this. Weapon secondary. We do not need to worry about this. Weapon ranged. We do not need to worry about this. AC mods. This is where you type in the AC for your armor, for your character. AC armor. That is where you enter in the AC provided to you by your armor. AC shield. That is where you tap in the AC provided by your shield, which is usually a +2. So if you have a shield, put a 2. AC max dex. Leave that as 99. AC bonus. That is where you put any bonuses to your AC. AC penalty. That is where you put penalties to your AC. So, if we had armor that gave us a 16 AC, simply type in 16. This does calculate your dexterity automatically into your AC, which we can see from here. So, based on this AC, this character should have 16, 17, 18 from AC shield, plus 1 from the dexterity, giving them a 19 AC. And if we hover over the token and look down at the second from the last bottom, you will say AC, and it is calculated as a 19. If you have armor that puts you at a cap for dex, as in armor that only allows you to add +2 from your dex, simply adjust accordingly. I take that back. If you have armor that does that, instead of leaving it the AC max dex as 99, change it to appropriate. So, if it was AC max dex 2, as in for most armors that are not heavy, you will put a 2, and it will allow you to put in your dex up to 2. We can test that, like so. Let's test it. Let's say they have a 20 dex. Now, even with a 20 dex, their AC should only be 20. And it is, so it works. Combat mods. We do not use this. Ability mods. Unless you have advantage for an ability mod, such as ability saves or checks, leave it as 0. If you do, put it as a 1. And this is only for rare cases where you always have advantage on a check or save no matter what, which is very rare, so I suggest leaving it as a 0 and simply asking me if you have advantage on your save or your check, and I will tell you yes, in which case you will click the button twice. By button, I mean the macro, which we will get into later. Saving throws. This is where you put in the proficiency, if you have it, for a saving throw. Example. If you have proficiency in strength saving throws, you do not put in your ability score modifier plus your proficiency in this location. What you do, however, is put 1 for yes, or 0 for no, or 2 if you have expertise. They should automatically be 0, stating that you do not have proficiency in any saving throws. But depending on your class, you should. So, if you had proficiency in strength saving throws, put a 1. And now, this will calculate in your proficiency bonus when you make a strength save. If you have a class that gives you expertise in saving throws, or doubles your proficiency, put a 2. And what this does, it doubles your proficiency bonus to your saving throw. Skill proficiency. This is the same as the saving throws. This is asking if you have proficiency in a certain skill. If you do, put a 1. If you don't, leave it as a 0. If you have expertise or double proficiency bonus, put a 2. For example, if you have proficiency in acrobatic skill, put a 1. If you have expertise, put a 2. Character classes. This is where you will put your current level, your active level, which typically should be the same, as well as your class levels. So, if you are a 5th level barbarian, you will put 5 for your current level, 5 for your active level, and 5 for barbarian. If you multi-class and you're level 6, as an example, 5 levels barbarian and 1 level cleric, you will put 6 for your current level, 6 for your active level, 5 for your barbarian level, and 1 for your cleric level. This is used for the spell macros, as well as keeping track of what level you are. Input spell stuff. These are damage resistances. If you have resistance to any type of damage, listed here, you will put 0.5. Currently, they are set to 1, which means you are not resistant to any of these damage types. Do not worry about spell res, incorporeal, or evasion. So for example, if you are resistant to fire damage, you will put 0.5. And now, when you use the damage macro and select fire type damage, you will take half of the damage you inputted. So say you inputted 12 damage into the damage macro, which we'll get into later. But you have fire resistance, and you have set up this area properly, and you select fire damage in the damage macro. Instead of taking 12 fire damage, you will automatically take 6. If, for whatever reason, you take double damage from fire or any other damage type, aka you have a vulnerability, put a 2. And now, whatever damage amount of that type you added will be doubled. Do not worry about toggles. Do not worry about buffs. Death marks. Do not touch anything in this area. This is how your HP is calculated, as well as your death saving throws. If you change any of this, it will change the outcome, and whenever you damage yourself, you will probably automatically die. And that is it for the properties section. Now we will go into macros. So, if you're in the proper campaign file, you will see a token called Test Player. You will want to select that. You will want to right click that and go down to Impersonate. I will show you what Impersonate will do here. These are the windows you will need when doing macros. If you do not have these windows, go to Window. The windows you will need are Chat, Selected, and Impersonate. My Impersonate window is minimized. I will maximize it here. When you impersonate a token, they will show up in the impersonated window, which is right here. If you select a token, they will show up in the selected window, which is here. Now, to put a macro from an impersonated token, aka the test player, into your token, aka the selected token, simply left click, drag, and drop. And now, that macro is now in your token. These are the macros you will need while we play. You would need the elevation macro, the AFK macro. This is to let us know if you go AFK. The ability check macro, which I've already added, the saving throw macro, the skill check macro, the long rest macro, and the short rest macro. The short rest macro does not actually change any of the stats. You will have to manually go in and change those yourself, but it lets us know that you took a short rest. We do not use food token buffs, so do not worry about those. Alternatively, if you would like to use any of these skill macros, you may do so. These have advantage and disadvantage built into the macro, and they are easy to edit, if in any case you need to do so. Combat. You will need the damage macro, the healing macro, and the healing potions macro. The healing and potions macro is handy, because if you click it by taking a healing potion, you can select what kind of potion you took. Select if you take any additional healing from this potion, and then hit OK. And you are automatically healed for the amount that you automatically rolled. So for this macro, this character rolled a 7, and they will automatically heal for 7 if they were damaged. You may be wondering what these numbers mean. This is your total HP and current HP, 20 out of 20. Temp is your temporary HP, which is 0 out of negative 20, because they do not have any temporary HP. You will also need the death check, which is your death saving throws. You do not need initiative, as I always roll initiative for you, because it is simple and easy for me to roll it for everybody. You will also need the basic attack edit. And this is used to make melee attacks or ranged attacks. We will go into editing that token macro now. And these are all of the macros you will need. Unless you're a spellcaster, in which case, spell macros we will go into later. To edit your macro, simply right click and click edit. This is what you should see. Yours may look different, because I have mine on dark mode. This is the editor. Dice d20 equals 1d20 means that is the dice you are rolling. It also has a built-in advantage. Dice dam equals 1d6. That is the damage die that you are rolling. This one is currently rolling a d6. If your damage die is not a d6, if it is a d4 or a d12 or a d10 or even a d8, simply type in that number. Now it is a 1d8 damage die. This macro has an automatic crit built in, so if you're using a d8 weapon, simply type in d8 or whatever die you are using. Blessed die is currently broken and it does not work. But if you are able to figure out how to fix it, it is there. You will need to do some editing if strength is not your base for your attacks. If you're a strength user, such as any character that uses a weapon that uses strength, like a greatsword or a longsword, the macro is fine. It will not need any fixing. However, if you are a character that uses dexterity for your attacks, such as with a longbow, you will need to come in here and do some editing. Currently, all of the stats are drawing from the strength base, which is your strength statistic. That is incorrect. If you use dexterity, or for some reason you use con, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, you need to change in the base. So for dexterity, it will be DEX. And now it is using the dexterity modifier. The same goes for the rest. If you are using con, simply remove the STR and put CON. Ability equals STR. That means this macro is drawing from the strength base, the STR flow. If you are a dex user, such as using a longbow, you will need to change STR into DEX. And now it is using the dex flow, which is pulling from your dex base. Attack bonus equals ability plus proficiency. Excuse me. This means it is using your ability score modifier, in this case dexterity, plus your proficiency bonus. If you have anything else to add to this, you can do so here or below. Attack. You can change this to anything. Currently, it is just saying this is the attack. If you would like to put in your weapon, you can do so. Like greatsword. Now it will say you are using a greatsword. Attack D20 plus attack bonus plus F hit plus if bless buff. Bless buff is the part that is broken, and I unfortunately do not know how to fix it. D20 plus attack bonus means it is rolling a D20 plus your attack bonus, which is your ability plus your modifier, as stated above. It is also rolling your advantage, located here, which should be the same as your regular attack bonus. We also use that for disadvantage, which is what DIS is. Damage type. This is where your damage is being rolled. Dice down plus ability plus F down. If you would like to change damage type to the actual wording of your damage type, you can simply delete damage type, and if you are using a greatsword, which uses slashing, you can type in slashing. Or piercing, if you're using a piercing weapon. Or bludgeoning, if you're using a bludgeoning weapon. And below is the crit, critical hit. This means if you roll a 20, you have reached a critical hit. Now, if we hit apply and OK and roll, we can see 26 and 18. That means we rolled an 18 on our d20, and a 26 is our modifier with proficiency. Advantage, disadvantage, the 15 in parentheses means we rolled a 15 on our d20. 23 is the total with our ability modifier of dexterity, and our proficiency bonus. Slashing, 12 parentheses 7. That means we rolled a 7 on our d8 and a 12 from our dexterity modifier when added. Now, if you would like to change basic attack edit into what you would like to call your macro, simply right-click Edit and go to Details. And where it says Label, put in what you would like to call your macro. If you would like to call it a greatsword, simply type in greatsword. Group. If you would like to organize your macros, this is where you can do that. If you would like to make a section called Attack, so you can put so there. Tooltip. This is where you can put any information you like. If you would like to put in the reach of your weapon, or perhaps how many times you can use this attack per round, you can add that here. So if you have an extra attack, you could say you have extra attack. If you like to say that you have 5 feet of reach, you can do so here by just saying 5 feet, or however it is you would like to do so. Now you hit apply and hit OK. Now it is in its own grouping called attacks, and it is labeled greatsword. And when you hover over it, you can see all of the information that you put into that section. Extra attack, 5 feet. And it still works as normal. Now, if you are a spellcaster and you need spell macros, and you have already downloaded the spell tokens from the Google Drive located in our Discord, you should see something like this. Once you have downloaded your appropriate spell tome based on your class, simply right-click, hold, and drag, and drop. And now the spell tome is in Maptools, and it is a token, like any other token. We can drag and drop spell token macros onto your token the same way we did it with a test player. Simply right-click, go to Impersonate, and click it. And now all of the macros are located in the Impersonate window. And now we can click on your token, and your macros are located in the Selected window. And we do it the same way we edit all of the other macros. If there is a spell you have loaned, and it is located in the tome, all you have to do is simply right-click, hold, and drag, and drop. And now your token has whatever spell it was. In this case, Cure Wounds. Now, whenever you click Cure Wounds on your token, and you select what level you are casting it at, we'll say we cast it at first level. Hit OK, and the spell macro does all the work for you. Cure Wounds. It tells you the school, the casting time, the range, and components, if any, plus the duration, what level you cast it at, and the description of the spell, as well as the description of the spell at higher levels. And then it gives you the healing or the damage or any other ability you did. In this case, you rolled an 8 plus 0, because this character does not have a wisdom modifier. Now, let's get a damaging macro for spells, or a spell that requires a saving throw. So we can discuss that. Now, let us click that macro. We'll say we cast it at level 2. And now, these kind of macros will give you a dexterity saving throw, and it will pre-calculate what the DC is if you have entered it correctly into your token. 8 plus proficiency plus stat mod. What this means is it is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your stat mod. Because this character has no charisma, and this is a sorcerer spell tome from a sorcerer spell tome, it is using charisma automatically. So this character has a DC 11, and it automatically calculates your damage. 556 is what was rolled, for a total of 16. Now, for any reason, if you need to edit a spell, or make a spell that is not in one of the pre-described books, simply use a pre-existing spell for ease of use. Right-click, edit, and edit accordingly. For instance, if the score is not transmutation but conjuration, simply remove transmutation and type in conjuration. If the casting time is different, simply change what the casting time actually is. If it was a action instead of a bonus action, simply delete bonus and type in action. If the range is different, simply delete what range it is currently and add in the appropriate range. You can also arrange your spell macros the way we did with all of the other macros. So, if you would like to put in spells, simply put a spell grouping, hit apply, and hit OK. And now it is in its own category, called spells. Now, if we hit it again, we notice that it is casting this at level 2. We can hit OK. But you may remember that this token does not have any second level spell slots. So, when we hover over our token, you will see spells and spells continued. Those are your spell slots. Currently, this character has -2 out of 0 second level spells. Just because you do not have those spell slots typed in does not mean you can't use a spell with those spell slots. So, you need to be aware. It also ticked down our first level spell slot from when we use Cure Wounds. So this is how you keep track of your current spells. To reset your spell slots, simply hit the long rest button. And now your spells are restored. Alternatively, you could double click your macro, your token, go up to where it says spells and spells continue, and spell points, and in spell points, change those accordingly. Now, when you are done with your token, you need to save it. Right-click your token and go down to the very bottom where it says Save, and click that. And then you can save your token somewhere on your computer. When you do that, it should look something like these. These are spell terms, but the symbol should be the same. Also, if at any point you need to come back and make edits to your token, you need to remember to open up the campaign file. And you remember, you do that by going to File, Open Campaign, and selecting your campaign file. When we are in a game, and if I have not put you to a new map, but you are supposed to be on a new map, there's a few things you can do. 1, you could tell me. Or 2, if you see the new map, you can come up here to Select Map. Click it, and there will be a list of maps. If you see a map that you have not been to, and that you should be on, you can select that map from this list. Currently, there are no maps in this campaign, except for the one you are currently on, which is called Limbo. If at any point you wish to save this entire campaign, go to File, Save Campaign, or Save Campaign As, if you would like to change the name of the campaign file. Alternatively, you could hit Control S, and that is a quick save button. When it is game time, game day, simply you will be asked to log into the server. To do that, simply go to Connect to Server. If you haven't had any changes, this is fine. But if you have made changes to your campaign, you need to save it before you do this. Go to Direct, and here are several things you will see. You will see a password, which I will send to you, an address, which I will send to you, and a port, which I will send to you on game day, usually an hour before. You will want to put those in accordingly. And then hit OK, and you will be connected to our server. When you are connected to our server, you will be put on a map. And when you are, you will want to come to your saved token, which should be in a file, and click and drop it onto the map you see. And that is all for making your token. Thank you for playing with me, for being a part of my games in this world. I look forward to many more adventures with you all, and I hope this tutorial helped you very much. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.